Hello, Amy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. We're back, but there's no new wave, is there?
No, I thought we'd just spice it up a bit. Surprise, they're doing a release wave every week now. Hold on tight.
Yeah. No, it's good to chat about marketing stuff, isn't it?
There's more stuff and there's more stuff coming every month, and we decided that we'd talk about things a bit more often with a bit less intensity and a bit less about things that are coming and a bit more about what's right now
Yeah.
and a bit of what we're up to as well. Not just general live chit
Yes.
chat, but a bit marketing focus, we're trying to
Marketing
stay on
related.
track.
Yeah. Not like, hey, I went for this great walk, or I went for a swim.
Come and
Yeah,
watch
I
me talk
think
about my life. No.
I know. I think as well, I'm sure you've so both of us, just for anyone watching that doesn't know, both Amy and I work for ourselves, so we're independent contractors, consultants, whatever you want to call us. We're boss CEOs of our own company, masters of our own domain. But I think I find even though I've got clients and then I'm discussing things with them, it's not the same as going to somebody else who's in the same trenches and saying, oh my God, have you tried to do this?
Yeah.
Isn't it crap? Or how have you done that? So I think that's probably helpful for us as well, right? To have each other to bounce those thoughts off
Yeah.
of each other.
More often than not, I'm coming to you like, am I overthinking this? And then I take you down into the rabbit hole with me and we overthink it together.
Yes, and then I
But
think I really
sometimes.
don't like Amy for doing this to me today.
So we're going to
Yeah.
share it with more people. So,
Yes. So
without
so
further
let's do
ado.
that. So I think one of the things that would be good to start off with, because you talked about when we do the release notes, it's like what is coming, but there are a couple of things that have just come out that I think would be good just to touch on because some people
Yeah.
might not know these. So let me share my screen. This is where I'm like, can I share the right screen? All right. So anyone that's not aware, this gets updated each month when there's a new release. This one, have you seen this yet? The customer inflows and exits at every journey step.
I saw some preview stuff of this, so
Have
that's
you seen it
exciting that it's
live?
really, really here yet. And I've not seen it in a customer environment yet,
Me either. But I think it's
but
one of
that,
those things that you'd have to have done a journey very recently and then quickly gone and looked for the
yeah.
analytics, wouldn't you?
And it's public preview, so it may not be available everywhere. But that's exciting.
It is, it is. And then I like the fact that it shows exit reasons.
Yes.
So one of them is repeat journey entry blocked by configuration, exclusion or suppression segment member. Um, I yeah, I hope
Yeah.
that if it's just showing exit reasons like that, it would be good then if you could go into it and see the people that
The
exited for those
breakdown,
reasons.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Might
we'll have
see,
to
I'm
wait and see.
optimistic that maybe that's under the properties, but no, actually, no, that's silly.
Well, no, because the properties would be the properties of the entry, wouldn't they? They'd be what
Yeah.
segment started it or trigger started it or the
I
date.
think the other side of was that you're actually going to see it on the canvas as well about where people exited and it's showing the flow a bit better.
Okay,
So we might be able to get the visuals that way as well. But
I hope
yes.
so. Okay. Um, so this next one, I'll be interested in your take on this. It doesn't work in my environment, and I've currently got a support ticket. I basically reported it as, "Hey, this is a bug."
Mhm.
But then I've seen it. But then I was merrily in another client. So I've seen it. I've not seen it in mine. I've not seen it in another's. It basically gets a spinning wheel when you click on the
Yeah, yeah.
click map. But then I was doing training, and I was like, "Oh, well, there's no point in talking about this because it's not going to work." And
And
then
it
it
works.
worked.
Good.
So
That's
what?
nice.
Which
So
is
for
good that it
context, we're
works.
talking about the heat map and analytics for
Yes.
emails, right?
Sorry.
I've not seen
Yeah.
it in the real life yet. I think
Okay.
it's one of those things that like customers get excited about it. It's sexy, but I don't see people using it to much value very often.
Okay. So Amy, I disagree.
Okay.
So I think this is one of the things that I had them not complaints to me, but I had the most sort of whinges about from people that are trying to transition from outbound to real time.
Mate, have
Is
you not
that you?
touched segments?
Oh,
That's
yes, okay, but Yeah, but at least segments exist. It's like something that's missing completely.
Oh, it is.
So the fact there's no heat maps. Also, I think heat maps can be valuable because what you're then able to see very quickly, which currently we don't have as an analytic stat, is where somebody scrolls to. So you've got like above the fold and below the fold. So basically, what can they see? I know, just throwing out some stuff there.
Yeah, right.
So what can someone see? So on your website, if somebody goes to your website, you've got what can they visually see when they first land on the page versus what do they have to scroll to get to. So that's basically like above the fold, meaning I can see it immediately, versus I have to scroll. So in an email, we don't have that stat, but the heat map will tell me, okay, well, yes, maybe I'm getting clicks, but if nobody ever gets to the bottom of my newsletter, something's not right. Something's not working for me. So I view it as if a marketer is serious about like, okay, what's the point of this email that we're sending out? What do we want to achieve from it? We want people to see. There's no point in having a newsletter that only the top half gets read. Then why bother? Like, either do shorter newsletters or you need to make it more engaging in a way that people will actually scroll all the way through it.
And this is more where we features that the user training becomes more important, I think, because quite a lot of marketers don't know how to use it or what to do. So layering in that into your training and your education about how they can use it is something that helps them get more out of the product, I think.
I agree. So I think it, once I can see it actually flipping working.
It's in preview, it's meant to be broken, right?
Well, yeah, and they're like, oh, well, it works. And I'm like, well, not in mine. So obviously there's something that if it doesn't work in mine, it's likely that other customers, it's not just Megan V. Walker that's going to have the issue. It's so, yeah. Okay, this one.
Enhancement. This is AKA stuff we broke, stars now.
Exactly. No, but this one, I saw this when I was in training and I was like, get in. I didn't even make it a thing. I saw a post on LinkedIn
by Marlon. So I'm very behind the times. This is cool. Tell me about it.
Oh, just the fact that when you're doing a journey now, you can start it with multiple segments. Whereas for so long it was just one, and it was just random as well because I was doing the training and then I was like, hang on a second, it hasn't locked that field down, and then I just thought, oh, we can do another one.
That's really nice as well, because the limitation with segments at the minute is that once they become combined, you can't edit the ones below. So people are making a lot of noise about that. So I think it's also a bit of okay, well, it helps us avoid the embedded segment problem by letting you use multiple segments in a journey. So that's really nice.
Yeah, because you're having to like do a bit of a crappy workaround because of the fact you could only start it with one segment. You have to combine stuff into segments.
And then stuff below the combined segments all locked down, and then everyone gets upset about that. So that's good. It helps to work around it in a different way. I mean, we're not fixing the root cause, but it's useful for other things.
I think so. One thing that is important, and so I saw on same post from Marlon Martinez where she'd seen it and did a blog post about it. On LinkedIn, someone said, oh, I got excited and thought that we would be able to do one with leads and contacts. They explicitly are saying all segments should be in the same entity, either leads or contacts or profiles. So
that's an interesting one as well, because at first I was like, no, you would never send something to leads or contacts. But now I'm coming across more and more scenarios where you would want to mix. Classic ones like newsletter.
Exactly.
It goes to contacts and leads. And I'm always never quite sure how to do it apart from 2 journeys. Makes me a bit sad.
It is sad. So I know we've obviously passed September.
Last month.
Yeah, but I guess it wasn't that long ago. But there are.
Ooh.
What?
Oh, I see one. I see one. That's exciting.
Which one?
It begins with P and ends in refill. Prefill.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was like, it doesn't begin. It begins with S and ends. What are you talking about? I was totally thrown off there. Yes, prefill. Form prefill. Exciting. Have you used it yet?
I've used it. It landed just at the right time for a customer. Interesting word scenario people might relate to, actually. I'm going to briefly explain. I have a contact a customer who wants to do RSVPs for events. So it's not just registration. It's either yes, I'm coming, or no, I'm not. So they want a response either way. So you can't use event registrations because the act of creating a registration means they've registered.
Yeah.
So we actually use like a standard landing page form. And obviously this invitation only event, we already know these people. So we don't
Yeah.
want them. This was a really perfect time because they were just wanting to transition to outbound. And I was like, excellent,
Oh,
let's go.
yeah.
So it was a really good scenario of this custom. I know these customers, I'm inviting them to something. All I need them to do is say yes or no. Really need to streamline the process. And the form pre-fill came in just in time. So
Nice one. So what's interesting about the form pre-fill, so a couple of things. So I'll show it within my environment. So if anyone's like, oh, form pre-fill, I want to go and start using it.
yes.
First thing that you've got to do is you've got to make sure that on your
Yes.
domain setup that you've got this toggled for the form pre-fill. You'll notice that there's one, and now it says enable form pre-fill for outbound marketing. So now there's the second toggle that is for real time. So make sure that that is turned on. And then what happens is on your form, on your form, you've then got a toggle that you can turn on if you want to set up that form for pre-fill. So if I just go into this one, so on your form settings, you've got, when it loads in a minute, there we go. So you've got a pre-fill field at the top level on the form. When you turn that on, you just turn it off for a second. So when you turn that on, what it will do is it will add this little icon, which is basically saying that's a pre-filled form. Pre-filled field. Now I wonder if they fixed it. So one of the things is when you turn it on, you know how you've got the label that normally you can double click into, and then you can change.
Yeah, it's locked down.
Yeah. So if you do it, then you're going to need to have changed that first.
There's a few ways around it, right? You either turn the pre-fill off, go into the HTML, or do your labels and turn on pre-fill.
Yeah.
A few ways around it, but it is annoying.
It is annoying. I was like, oh. So a couple of things that I suggest absolutely you've got to make sure. I would only be pre-filling certain fields. So on this one, if this is my contact form, I should never be trying to pre-fill the message field, which in this case is the description field, because then the contact is going to see, or the lead is going to see exactly what they filled in the last time. It's going to look a bit crap. So it's just basically a matter of then deciding, okay, what do I want to turn on? What do I want to turn off? What I think is really nice with this is that you then could have your initial subscription page. So not talking about the preference center where someone clicks on the link to unsubscribe, but if I go to my website, someone can say, oh, I want to subscribe to the blog. And then in theory, all of those tick boxes are going to be your topics. Set that as pre-fill so that the boxes have the pre-fill on them. So because if you think about it, if someone goes to that later on and they're like, oh, now I want to subscribe to this, and all of the other boxes are unticked, what they're actually going to do is unsubscribe from things they've already subscribed to.
Yeah.
So that one definitely, I think, if somebody's got a form like that on a page,
any form that's using topics and things like that, it's a really good one to turn on.
Yeah.
It's just the risk, I guess, with that you've got someone who doesn't click from an email, so they're not then tracked, and then they submit it, then they've opted themselves out.
So the way in which the tracking works, or the context works, so it's two ways. If I want it to, so let's say that in your scenario you're doing your invitation, then there will be people in that database that have never even been to the customer's website, right? So I know, heavens to Betsy. So you'd create an email, and your button or your hyperlink is going to be to the page where the website, it's where the form is embedded, right? So what happens with that? It passes. So this is both equal parts good and some parts bad. So if they click on the link and they go to the website, it passes through that link some context, so it knows who I am, right? Then that allows it to pre-fill. Brilliant. It used to be that it was only cookies. from what I understand, cookies are also an aspect still, but it looks to see if there are cookies, and if there are not, form context or cookies. So it means if somebody then later on goes to your website and the cookies are now there, then any other pre-fill forms should work, right?
Okay.
Here's the potential bad things, but I can appreciate you can't have one without having this drawback. If you forward your email to me and say, hey, have a look at this, and I click on it, the context is in the button.
Yeah,
so I'm like, Amey Holden, right? Which could be, depending on what you're pre-filling, you would never want to be pre-filling anything that's sensitive data.
It's not ever,
And then here's the other flip side, which I think is like, you really should be like checking your data, but let's say there are conservatively 2 contact records for you, okay? You get sent an email, and the email that the segment was selecting is the older version of your contact based on the modified date.
Yeah.
If you then fill out the form matching strategy, if it's just on email, says, oh, which is there's 2 of Amey, which is the most recently updated one. So your form submission is going to update the same contact. Does that make sense?
It's not linked by a contact GUID, for example. It's just like a matchy thing. Yeah. Yeah, so but then, don't have duplicate data in your database.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like, then you need to do a bit of checking. But those are the 2 caveats in terms of...
Or tighten up your matching strategy, right? Because the only valid scenario of duplicate contacts I see is like multiple business units, and that contact belongs to both business units. They're separated. They're not duplicates by definition of the company. So then you've got to make sure your matching strategy includes business unit.
But if you just have duplicates in the same business unit, you're screwed, because currently there's no way to add in the context.
Yeah, unless you really refine your matching strategy better. I don't know.
I don't think there's anything else you could be able to do. If it's 2 contacts with the exact same email address in the same business unit, and everything else is equal, it's going to go on last modified date.
Potato, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's great that we have it, but I think it's...
You got to be aware of it, right? You take the risks, and that's what audit history is for. If it all goes pear-shaped, and so be it.
And then only last thing on this that I had an issue with, where the pre-fill toggle kept getting turned off, and then it was messing things up, was because I had... Well, so this is my own environment, and I do everything in here, and so I don't have the luxury of like ALM process and deploying changes. So everything I do is directly into the solution. So it was unmanaged layers, that as soon as I removed the unmanaged layer, because I'd added extra fields, it worked fine.
Yeah. Okay. So, no unmanaged layers. Doesn't like it. Fair enough.
Which is fair enough.
It's just life. That's how life works, I'm afraid.
It is. So what about you? What things have you been working on? Anything fun?
Well, 2 things. Well, more than that, but let's not spend all day. PS self-promotion, how to get the customer lookup on the form for the contact.
Oh, how would I do that? Do you have anything?
It's okay, I wrote a blog on about it. So the little account lookup, that was part of my little project, was we need to show them what their account is, because we're controlling the data. They're not actually updating those fields. So it was to show the company name or the account, whatever you call it, and have the fields. Pre-fill? Yeah. And then we have the fields read only, because I don't want them fiddling around in my account data. I just want them to see it. Yeah. So it was really handy for that. But you've got to actually do your own customer field with the HTML bit, because you can't grab it from the side, but you can do it.
Nice. Yeah, so you would definitely want to be locking that down. Otherwise, you're saying, hey, have a look at all of our customers.
Hey, come and look. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, so definitely not that, but it's good if it's locked down. I mean, yeah, anyway, I'm not going into the rabbit hole of how someone could still get to it. It's,
I know.
I'm just going to stop.
Yeah.
And the other one, which is one of those things that I came to you and got you in confused with me.
Hell.
Yes, and we're still there a little bit, but I'm kind of just at peace with it, is SMS and consent. So obviously there is a really nice selection of SMS providers you can use when you're using Dynamics marketing, which is great. And one of them is Twilio, which is quite a popular one, which is what a lot of customers in Australia use as well, because we don't really have access to any of the other ones.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, most of them are not supported, or they end up taking your data outside of Australia, and a lot of customers aren't keen on it.
Right.
So that tends
Are
to be
they
the main
based?
one.
I know. I was going to say there's obviously Twilio. I'm familiar with them. I know that they're heavily in the US and the UK. Do they have a base there in Australia as well?
I'm pretty
like
sure,
a contact center and support. Okay.
They've got decent coverage, whereas like I know like the ACS, the Azure one, like that's not even available here. Like loads of them are like US only, so we tend to see a lot of it. So it's really cool. You can just plug in your details and you're away sending SMS in theory. But then there becomes a big challenge of consent. And even if you're using non-restrictive compliance profiles, SMS still requires an explicit opt-in. So how on earth do these records get created and how on earth do I send an SMS out is one part of the picture. And the other one was then also for the opt-outs. So just for some context, let's have a look at the contact profile. So if we have a look here, let's have a look at the mobile phone number. So you'll see here when it says, it's really small writing though. I wonder if I zoom in, it's not going to get any bigger. So you'll see here on the, yeah, now we're all over the place. You'll see here it says will not send, and the reason is did not opt in, rather than, for example, even if it's a non-compliant, if this one's restrictive, but even if it's non-restrictive, that's what the answer always is. So we need to build, and the only way I know to do it is to build, except for the happy path where someone subscribes from your website and ticks the box. That consent's never going to exist. So I've been working with the customer to work out what's the rules for when we add that, which is not too bad. Like we drive it off contact type and we add them in, and then obviously they can remove themselves at any time. We don't add them more than once, but you do have to build that automation. There's nothing out the box that will automatically add the consent, even if you've got the magic ticky box, does nothing. So adding the consent is one part, and then it's more about also the opting out. So Twilio and most SMS providers, standard, usually a legal thing, has automated in place that if you reply stop to a message, it opts you out. I know in Twilio you cannot turn that off, probably compliance reasons again. But the problem is then that your unsubscribed lives in Twilio, nothing comes back into Dynamics. So I could look in here, I've added Cleo Holden and I've opted her in for all the SMS. And then she replies to Twilio and says stop. Nothing comes back into here, right? So then it won't send to her, because when you try and send in the journey, it will say it's been blocked, but then you're not getting a true idea of your reach of who you're marketing to. It makes your stats look crap. And I'm not sure what the implications are cost-wise, that if you ask Twilio to send but it can't, does it still charge you? I'm not sure on that.
Yeah.
But it's just not nice. So you've not got this full circle. You've got no visibility of who's opted in and out, even if you're managing it in your system. So one way to kind of work around it is to move to what's called an alphanumeric number. So that's the one that's a name rather than a number. So then at least people can't reply stop because there's nothing to reply to. You then have to obviously, you have to make sure, okay, there's lots of buts with every scenario. If anyone has smarter ideas, like please, like this is the best one I can come up with. So you use the name one, but you have to include the link, the compliance profile link in all your SMSs. There is no checks in place as far as I know that make you do it. So you're relying on human error. There's risk of human error.
Yeah.
And it's a big compliance risk. So that's call out number one. Call out number two, people can't reply. So say goodbye to your keyword replies, like text more to find out more. That's gone. All that's gone. Yeah. Unless you tell them to text another number and then somehow pull that back in. But basically you're replying and keywords is in the bin. And then also...
Sorry, I was going to say, does it even accept and show if somebody replies? I think, would that person then get an error, the actual person that's sending the reply? Because I'm sure I've had that from more and more companies now are using the alphanumeric stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so Halfords, like a car place, we got our car serviced and we got a text, and the text comes from the word Halfords. If you try and reply, then often you get an error. It basically says you can't send it.
It doesn't know where to send it.
Yeah. Okay.
But you can, in theory, in the text say text hello to this number and have a different number configured that's got the callback. But no one's going to do it.
No one's going to do that.
No.
Yeah. Jump through this hoop and then walk through this fire and then do this.
Or just go to the website and find out the stuff you need anyway. The end. So that's not going to work. So it's kind of covers most bases. There's still the chance. Then you've also potentially got, if you're using an existing Twilio account, you've got a heap of opt-outs already in Twilio that you need to pull back into Dynamics at some point. So I've already built an automation that goes through Twilio to pull those out and put them back in Dynamics at least, and does a daily check in case people have responded since we made the transition. And then the other thing is, once someone's opted out in Twilio with the stop, nothing sends to them. So even if you send a transactional SMS from Dynamics, Twilio does not care. It is not going to send it to them. You cannot go into Twilio and remove the unsubscribe. The only way to get that person off the stop list is to ask them to send a text to a number that says start. And again, you can't text them to do this.
Yeah.
So good luck. Good luck.
No, it's pretty. It's a bit of a minefield, isn't it? Because I think, am I right in saying that you hadn't really done much with Twilio until this project, and I've just started working with a client, and I tell you what I'd done with Twilio. I'd done some tests with a trial on my own for some blog posts, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of, for those of you watching, Amey and I almost kind of like message each other at the same time about this, and then it's just like you start digging into it, you're like, how on earth are we going to handle all of this stuff with compliance? And the other thing, I don't know if you noticed, but where is it? I'm just trying to remember where I saw it, but yeah, recently, I think it's when you're now setting up a compliance profile, because it didn't used to say this, but now it says something about, it used to just be like, what's the model, and now it specifically states that text messages are restrictive.
Oh, okay,
so before it didn't say anything. Yeah, it didn't say anything, and now it does. So a couple of things that I have found. First of all, when you're talking about including the link, which works great in terms of when you get the link sent to you via text and you click on it, it defaults so that the phone number is the thing that displays, which is great, what you would expect. But, and I haven't tested it without UTM parameters, but if you've got UTM parameters turned on, it puts a dot or a period or a full stop, whatever. And it breaks the link. I haven't tested it if you don't have UTM parameters, so hopefully it's not an issue, but you could turn off tracking on that link specifically. So there's that. Excuse me. And then also, because you don't have a way to tie your topics at the compliance profile level, there's no way to link a topic to either email or SMS.
It's always both.
It's always going to be both. So if somebody goes to opt out, and they submit the form or opt in or whatever, and they are trying to do it for text, you can only have a branded compliance profile. It's the same for both, unless you do a bit of funky JavaScript and show and hide things. But also when they submit it, it's going to create contact point consent records for all of your topics for SMS and all of your topics for email, regardless of where you use those topics. So if you have a topic and you say, okay, this is for our important information text, this is for our event texts, then you're going to have a contact point consent record for email for those two topics, whether you like it or not. So it's all a little bit messy.
Like it works, but when you dig into it, you're like, ooh. So there's it's a bit of a solution, but there's a lot of drawbacks to it. But the alternative is that your database is shrinking rapidly. Because the main reason I got to that point was because the customer was like, well, if they reply stop, how do I know what they're opting out of? I was like, they're gone, honey. They are gone.
That's the least of your worries.
And that's how we fell down this rabbit hole. So I don't know what you do because you're using a third-party provider. but it's tricky.
Yeah, so the whole thing of not being able to send a response, so the customer that I've been working with, which has been one of the funnest like projects, because I don't have access to their system, which is great. We're just basically talking through things, and it's been wonderful. And one of I told them that I was going to be talking to you about this, so if any of them are watching, hey guys.
Hey.
So with theirs, they originally were going to go down the alphanumeric, and then that whole thing of like, yeah, but you can't get any of those responses. And one of the things that I've been working on is a hey, we've just helped you with something, could you give us some feedback, text 1 through 5, and then getting the response and then deciding what to do next. So it's like, well, we need that data back in. So one of the things that I'm going to be digging into next is, you know, if you go to the so if you click on your insights tab, so on your insights you've got your what's been sent to the person, so whether you've got text,
the
whatever, and so on the text one, that's where you can see what responses were actually sent back. So
nothing that, but in theory,
so in theory, replied text messages would show the keywords, right? So now what I'm hoping is that I can find the right action or thing that's happening in the database, and then use Power Automate to then take the response and do.
Yes, it's a custom action. Every time an SMS lands in the system, a custom action fires. It's called like text message received.
I know, but it didn't do it. It didn't fire anything when we did a test of it. So I'm like, why did that not fire? Did it just take a while? And maybe after we got off the call, maybe it has actually fired. But it was like, okay, well, surely we can use that, and then nothing fired. So I'm glad you said that you can, because that was my assumption, is you can use the...
found it for someone else, I think. Gustav was asking about it.
Okay, yeah, because I've used those out of the box ones for other things as well. But at one point, one of them just stopped firing. So it always worries me that these ones that exist in the action. So this is in Power Automate we're talking about, where you can start a flow from an action, which is how you start some triggers. If you're in the middle of a journey, you start a trigger that way. So my hope is that I can do that, but hopefully
alternative is I think you can start a flow when an SMS is received in Twilio. No, you can't. You can only do list. You can't, unless you build a custom connector. API can, but the connectors in Flow is nothing happens on a trigger, but you can do stuff. So you can list messages. So I'm doing like a daily check, but that's not quick enough for what you want. So you need someone to write your custom connector, because I think the API is pretty good, like really extensive, like so much freaking documentation. You can get lost in there, but there's nothing out of the boxy.
I'm hoping I'm going to test that that action again in my own environment and just do some tests, because that was my assumption as well. So unless Microsoft have been like, well, sorry, we're not going to do that,
third parties. I wonder if that anyway, I'm falling further down the rabbit hole.
Well, so the easy part was they wanted to be able to capture the number response that was given, so whether it was 1 through 5,
of course,
and that one's fine, because we basically get the branches that say if it's 1, do this one, and then I've basically got fire a custom trigger, and then that trigger's taken the thing and putting it back onto the inquiry record or the case record. So that's fine. It's just that if they then respond later on, it's a generic response, we still want to be able to grab it, and that's where I'm like, bit of digging is required, I think. So but good luck with the rest of that thing.
We've got some of it. Like, it's got a lot of buts, but I think it's going to work. It's the closest we can get within the bounds of. I'll stop sharing my empty screen now. Everyone enjoy staring at that empty screen for a while?
Yes, it was fun. Yeah, so I think maybe we'll have a chat in another few weeks or so, and then we can see what we're working on.
See if we can find another gnarly subject. There's plenty of them. See what's new. See what we broke. What have you broke in the last 3 weeks? Yeah, cool.
Never break anything. Oh, maybe we
Yeah,
can talk
no.
about lead scoring. There's a lot to unpack with that one.
Oh, yes, I do. I have a lot of people asking me about this now, and I'm just about ready to talk about it because I know how many problems it was at the start. So there we go. We decided on the fly. Next
We'll
time
talk about
lead
lead scoring.
scoring and other exciting things in the meantime.
And your dog,
Yes,
Leo, just looks so peaceful. Bless
she's having
her.
the best life.
She is.
She's like, oh,
She
me?
knows,
Yes,
knows
yes,
we're
me.
talking about
Hi.
it.
You'll
Oh,
go
well,
back to
have a
sleep.
wonderful weekend, and we will catch up again soon.
See you soon. Thanks.
Bye.